Hi, I'm Steffany Strange. Want to hear something scary?
Hey Strangelings! I hope you all had a great start to the new year. We are excited for 2024, and we're starting off right with a compilation, so enjoy.
Addie transferred schools in the middle of the academic year. Being the new kid was hard enough, but being very quiet and shy made it more difficult to adjust. She desperately tried to make herself as invisible as possible, but still always felt different. During lunch, she sat by herself, and she stayed on the sidelines during gym. And whenever the teacher took attendance or began to ask the class questions, Addie would slink down low in the chair, and then she would start to bite her nails, or what little was left of them. In math one day, Daryl noticed that Addie had bitten her nails so low, she had drawn blood. A nasty note circulated throughout the classroom. It was a drawing of Addie as a vampire with blood dripping from her lips. Her classmates snickered at her at the accurate yet cruel drawing. The mocking only added to Addie's anxiety. When she noticed her cuticles were bleeding, she'd switch over to chewing on one of her pencils, or she would distractedly chomp on her hair. Her classmates were so repulsed by this. These odd tics were so noticeable, even her teacher was so concerned. She eventually asked Addie to stay after class to talk, but having attention drawn to her only made Addie's nerves worse. She began to sweat and she clutched her belly. The nerves made the flutters inside her feel stronger, a carnivorous pit right in her gut. The pain was all so consuming. Addie told her teacher she knew she was different, and it stressed her out. Her parents had assured her that no one in school would understand the real her, and she would try to keep to herself and focus on the schoolwork and survive the rest of the year. The teacher scoffed at what she felt was terrible parenting advice. She assured Addie all new students felt this way, and she would be fine. It would just take some time. Over the next few weeks, Addie felt like everyone's eyes were on her. She began frequently asking to go to the bathroom, but the teachers caught on and refused. One day, her leg was shaking so furiously, Addie pleaded with the teacher, causing a terrible scene. Addie could feel her stomach churn as she desperately begged. Some of the kids looked on, laughing, and the teacher eventually relented and gave her a hall pass. Addie quickly raced off to the bathroom, but didn't return within the usual amount of time. Another classmate was sent to check in on her, Frida. Frida was a sweet and shy person herself, and when she entered the bathroom, it seemed empty, aside from a stall at the far end. Besides the knock of the plumbing, she heard what sounded like a hungry animal gnawing at something. "Addie?" she asked. No reply. Frida bent down to see if she could spot her classmate's shoes in the end of the stall, but nothing. She figured Addie was hiding, maybe from the strange noises. "Addie?" she called again. This time, the sound stopped. Frida announced herself and swore that she was just there to make sure that Addie was okay, and yet still no answer. Frida continued, telling her she knew what it was like to be nervous. Frida gave a shaky laugh and admitted up till that point that she too had been afraid to speak to Addie, even though she wanted to since the beginning, since they seemed so much alike. Signs of movement came from the stall as Addie put her feet down. She called through the door to Frida, asking if what she said was really true, if she really felt nervous. Frida assured her that she also got that feeling of utter dread in the pit of her stomach, the one that makes you feel like you're going to die. "Yes," replied Frida. Addie let out a huge sigh of relief. She was so glad that she no longer felt alone. Someone understood. Maybe she wasn't the only one of her kind in the school like her parents had presumed. She excitedly emerged from the stall. Frida gasped and momentarily forgot how to breathe. Noticing Frida's silent scream, Addie's eyebrows furrowed in concern. "What's wrong, friend?" Frida stared at the missing limb, her body trembling. Addie looked at the stump blood beginning to soak through the napkin, and added curiously, "Wait, don't yours grow back too?"
When I was 16, my dad bought me my first car. It was an old beat-up Honda with 150,000 miles on it that his friend Jack Delaney sold him for next to nothing. A crappy car for others, maybe, but it meant freedom to me. I'd started my first waitressing job in town and often worked late nights. The car meant my parents no longer had to chauffeur me around. After a long shift one evening, I got into the Honda and headed home. The roads were still fairly busy despite the hour. Then, something caught my eye in the rearview mirror. Sitting in the back seat was a teenager around my age with electric red hair. She was looking out the window, entranced by the passing headlights. My hands were frozen around the steering wheel, eyes back on the road. When I glanced into the mirror again, she was gone. I floored it home, parked the car, and immediately ran inside to tell my dad what I had seen. He went straight out and checked the car. He brushed it off as a figment of my imagination. "Late night driving can do that," he said. I went to bed that night more curious than scared. Perhaps my dad was right, and it was all in my head. But the next night, it happened again, same as before. She seemed to like the passing headlights and was sad when the road was empty. We never spoke a word. The next few journeys were the same. I can't explain why, but I wasn't scared. It was like she just came with the car, and that's when it hit me. There was a way to find out more about my mysterious passenger. The following morning, I drove to Mr. Delaney's house. He was in his garage when I pulled up, and as soon as he saw the Honda, his mouth dropped open and his hands began to shake. I parked and thanked him for giving my dad such a great deal, then asked why he had sold it for so little. Yes, it was old, but it still ran really well. He stammered a while, but then told me about his daughter, Rosaline, how she had started hearing strange voices and seemed to be losing her mind. One night, she had taken the Honda without his permission and gotten into a terrible accident. She was killed instantly, yet apart from the windshield she had ended up flying through, the vehicle had been unscathed. However, after it was fixed, seeing it parked in the driveway day after day was too painful. He was happy to be rid of it. I left the Delaneys, not any closer to figuring out how Rosaline was connected to the car, but thought her dad must be exaggerating about losing her mind. That night, I was driving around running errands for my parents when she appeared again. This time, I spoke as passing headlights faded out of sight. "Rosaline, why do you stare at the headlights? Were they the last thing you saw?" She looked over at me, startled, as if noticing me for the first time. She made direct eye contact, and in a soft voice, she replied, "Yes, they're also the last thing that you'll see." Suddenly, she lunged over the seat, grabbing onto the steering wheel, and in a flash, I saw headlights coming straight towards us. I wrestled the wheel out of her hands, plunging us headfirst into a nearby tree. I shakenly got out of the car. There was smoke everywhere. The front had been caved in, the windshield shattered, and I had cuts all over my face and body. Everything hurt. I looked in the back seat, and thankfully, she was gone. As I slowly walked away from the totaled Honda and back to the street in the sound of sirens, I thought about Rosaline. I hoped she would find peace now, wherever she was. 2 weeks later, a brand new mini SUV appeared in the drive. The exact car I told my dad I'd always wanted. He tossed me the keys so I could take it for a spin. As I was making turns around the block, blaring the radio, checking out all the new dials and gadgets, I looked in the rearview mirror and it was empty. I felt a huge relief. That was until I looked at the passenger seat. It was Rosaline. She didn't say a word, just sat looking out the window, staring at the cars passing by. The principal asked Chica to clean out Khadijah's locker. It had been a week since the funeral, and Khadijah's mother hadn't come to pick up the belongings. There had been a party. The cops had shown up and everyone ran. Khadijah took a shortcut, fell into the river, and now she was gone. It took only a minute for Chica to scoop Khadijah's belongings into her own backpack. At first glance, everything seemed normal about the locker. All Khadijah had left was an AP statistics textbook, a tube of bright red lipstick, and a mirror hanging on the inside door. After a moment, Chica moved to close the locker until she heard a voice. "What lovely skin," the voice cooed. Chica squinted into the locker, shadows nearly swallowing the locker whole. She stilled, trying to find the source of that eerie voice, certain she had misheard. Then the voice spoke again. "What a beautiful girl." The voice was sweet, no louder than a whisper, oddly familiar. Almost like Khadijah's voice, but Chica couldn't be sure. They weren't friends, though people like the principal always assumed they were. Chica didn't have friends like Khadijah did, but in their chilly Maryland town, their similar ebony skin and midnight eyes stuck out. In fact, when Chica would pass Khadijah in the hallways, chatting with her large group of attentive blonde friends, Chica sometimes daydreamed that she and Khadijah were long-lost sisters. They both wore their hair natural. Khadijah always had hers tucked neatly behind a pristine silk scarf. A scarf she wore to match the other girls. Neat, like Khadijah's locker. Neat in all the ways that Chica was not. The shadows in Khadijah's locker suddenly gave way to a pristine, folded blue and white silk scarf. It was beautiful. Better than any of the other ones she had seen Khadijah wear. Chica's fingers itched to touch the fine silk. A sensation, like invisible hands, came over her palms. Chica reached in, curling the scarf around her palm. "It would fit you so nicely. Try it on," that soft voice suggested. How could Chica refuse it? Even as her skin prickled, she knotted the scarf around her neck. Though it was silk, it felt heavy on Chica's neck, like a paperweight on her collarbone. Chica looked up at the mirror and almost screamed. She didn't just look like Khadijah. In that moment, she was Khadijah. The scarf somehow warped her skin, transformed her face. Chica tried to pull at the scarf. It wouldn't budge, locked tight like an iron necklace. Blood bubbled in her throat. It was suffocating her, snuffing her out. Chica gave it another tug, and her elbow cracked against the mirror. The scarf slid off of her neck, and in the now cracked glass, Chica saw she had her face again. Trembling, Chica left the scarf in the locker, twisting the lock and shutting the door tight. It was nothing, Chica told herself. She would wait for Khadijah's mom to get the scarf. 2 days passed before the locker started to rot. It was a curdling smell that took up the entire hallway, sour and imposing. A stench that followed the students from classroom to classroom. Chica tried to avoid looking at Khadijah's locker on her way to math class, but she saw the unmistakable grime of shadows on its outer edges. She noticed a janitor and the principal trying to pry the locker open. "Did you try the combination?" The principal barked as students stopped to stare. "It's stuck shut," the janitor told him with a grunt. The bell rang, clearing the hallway, and Chica pressed nearer to the locker and its overpowering stench. Chica gagged as she got closer, then pressed a shaky hand on the lock. With one twist, it gave way. like it had been waiting to open just for her. "Put me on, and everyone will love you," that haunting voice promised from the dark. The shadows dripped from every dark crevice in the locker now, but the scarf hadn't been touched. It was still folded in the center of the locker, pristine. Khadijah pristine. Chica ignored the chill that ran up her spine, and she reached in once more. The scarf settled on Chica's neck, and she didn't pull away from the weight this time. She let it wrap itself around her and breathed in. The hallway now smelled like lilacs, not like rot, but like perfection. "Chica, would you like to come hang with us?" A sweet voice called from next to her. Across the hall, Khadijah's blonde friends had watched Chica try on the scarf with wide smiles, their own silk scarves tight around their necks and wrapped in their hair. Chica had been noticed. She looked just like one of them. Chica's hand tightened the scarf around her neck as she moved to close the locker. Before the door shut, Chica caught her reflection in Khadijah's cracked mirror. She saw the face that she wore was definitely not her own. That face smiled right back at her, happy with the life it now possessed.
Thanks so much for listening. Like and share if this video gave you the chills. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell for notifications. See you next time.